Good morning. Thank you for participating in our Adult Day Training Redesign Provider webinar. I'm Kent Carroll, Senior Management Analyst with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and I will be co-presenting on today's webinar.
And good morning, my name is Liesl Ramos, and I am a Program Administrator with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities in the Division of Operations.
During the webinar, you can use the chat feature to submit your questions. And at the end of the webinar, we will attempt to answer as many questions as time permits. If we don't get to your question, the answer will be added to the FAQ that we have posted on our website. And the link will be at the end of this PowerPoint presentation so that you can access the FAQ. Also, this presentation is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be posted to our website at a later date.
During today's webinar, we will discuss the purpose of the ADT redesign and provide background information. We'll describe the changes that will be occurring as a result of the ADT redesign. We'll introduce the new Life Skills Development Level 4 Prevocational service. We'll describe the provider requirements for service expansion, and we will also provide time to answer any questions that you may have as time permits. The purpose of the ADT redesign is to bring the iBudget waiver-funded adult day training and supported employment services into compliance with the federal home and community-based settings final rule from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS. The changes must be in place by the deadline of March of 2023. The changes are intended to create more pathways to employment for all APD clients who have expressed a desire to work, to provide increased access to the community and employment services for APD clients through activities that enhance independence, build community inclusion, expand the client's personal choices, and provide opportunities for more social connections. And these can include opportunities for day trips.
In 2014, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services implemented the CMS final rule that requires states to increase opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to access employment in competitive integrated settings. The CMS waiver application instructions and technical assistance guide do not allow day habilitation services such as ADT to pay waiver clients for services that are vocational in nature, that is, for the primary purpose of producing goods and providing services. Waiver funding is not available for the provision of vocational services delivered in facility-based or sheltered work settings. And that is where individuals are supervised for the primary purpose of producing goods or performing services. And this is in accordance with the CMS informational bulletin.
So next, we would like to talk a little bit about what is changing. First of all, adult day training services are being revised to include therapeutic recreation to assist individuals in developing and maintaining life skills that enable them to participate in community-engaged, meaningful day activities. ADT will no longer include volunteering or job training activities. Something that is not changing is that ADT should always occur at a location other than the residence of the client. Support should be provided in accordance with the client's person-centered support plan. They must be outcome-oriented and be designed to teach life skills. Providers can engage clients in activities that enhance independence, build community memberships, expand the client's personal choices, and provide opportunities for more social connections. In addition to that, Prevocational services are being added as a service option to provide pre-vocational training and work experiences on a time-limited basis. Pre-vocational services include volunteer work to develop general, non-job task-specific skills that will help people transition to vocational rehabilitation and eventually obtain paid employment in competitive integrated community settings. Some of these experiences could include volunteer work. Providers will need to ensure that they are providing pre-vocational services in accordance with the client's individualized needs and support plan goals. We'll describe what non-job task-specific skills are in a few moments. In addition to that, the rates for group supported employment services are being changed to match the rates of adult day training. Other than that, supported employment services will continue to include individual and group employment assistance in competitive integrated settings that are at or above minimum wage. Supported employment services will continue to be provided in accordance with the client's person-centered planning and support plan goals. Next slide, please. On the left column, we have listed some of the components of adult day training service as we have known this service to be for many years. Some of these are training activities intended to support the participation of individuals in valued routines of the community. Training services can include meaningful day activities and training in the activities of daily living, adaptive skills, and social skills. This training includes volunteering, job exploration, and paid employment services. And ADT also includes the off-site models that teach specific job skills and other services directed at meeting specific employment objectives. That's how we have known adult day training all along. The changes that will be coming about with this service mean that the service is going to look like this. It will continue to offer training activities intended to support the participation of individuals in valued routines of the community. ADT will continue to offer training that is age and culturally appropriate and will assist the individuals with the acquisition, retention, or improvement in self-help, adaptive skills, and socialization. ADT services will now include therapeutic recreation, which includes the acquisition of skills that build positive social behavior, interpersonal competence, greater independence, and personal choice. Beginning in March of 2023, providers will be required to comply with the CMS Settings Final Rule, which prohibits clients from working in facility-based settings during waiver services. Pre-vocational services will be offered to individuals who need to acquire non-job task-specific training before working at or above minimum wage. Clients who work at or above minimum wage can receive supported employment services to assist them in maintaining employment. For this reason, ADT will no longer include training in the areas of volunteering related to job skills, job exploration, paid employment services, or off-site mobile work crews. Along with the addition of new pre-vocational service to the iBudget waiver, transportation services will be available through the waiver to provide rides to clients to and from the new pre-vocational service, just as it currently does for clients attending adult day training.
And now let's talk more fully about the new pre-vocational services. Pre-vocational services should enable each individual to attain the highest level of work in the most integrated setting and with the job matched to the individual's interests, strengths, priorities, abilities, and capabilities while following applicable federal wage guidelines. Services are intended to develop and teach general skills. The new pre-vocational service will provide learning and work experiences, including volunteer work, where the individual can develop general, non-job task specific strengths and skills that can contribute to employability in paid employment in integrated community settings. These services are time limited, 36 months, and the 36 months may restart, but cannot total more than 36 months altogether. And this service is supposed to have specific outcomes that are to be achieved as determined by the individual on his or her service and supports plan meeting through an ongoing person-centered planning process. And this is to be reviewed not less than annually or more frequently as requested by the individual. Individuals receiving pre-vocational services must have employment-related goals in their person-centered service plan. The general habilitation activities must be designed to support such employment goals. The successful outcome of pre-vocational services is, as I said earlier, competitive integrated employment in the community for which an individual is compensated at or above the minimum wage, but not less than the customary wage and level of benefits paid by the same employer for the same or similar work performed by individuals without disabilities. And pre-vocational services should enable everyone to attain the highest level of work in an integrated setting. Services are intended to develop and teach general skills that will allow a person to acclimate into a community integrated employment settings. And I'll talk more fully later in later slides about what these non-job task specific tasks are. Next slide. All pre-vocational service options should be reviewed and considered as a component of the individual's person-centered support plan. And as I said earlier, that service plan should be reviewed annually or more frequently as necessary or as requested by the individual. The staffing rates for this new service will match the current staffing rates of adult day training. And those staffing ratios are 1-to-1, 1-to-3, 1-to-5, or 1-to-6-to-10. Participation in pre-vocational services is not a required prerequisite for individual or small group supported employment services provided under the waiver. Many individuals, particularly those transitioning from school to adult activities, many times are likely to choose to go directly into supported employment. A person receiving pre-vocational services may pursue employment opportunities at any time and enter the general workforce at any time as well. Pre-vocational services are intended to assist individuals to enter the workforce. That is the main goal. Federal waiver requires that the service be limited to individuals 22 years and older. And the service is also intended to help individuals transition to the Department of Education's Vocational Rehabilitation Phase 1. High budget Florida waiver clients assessing pre-vocational services will be eligible for compensation below the minimum wage. However, sub-minimum wage services are not available during day habilitation services such as ADT. Waiver funding is not available for the provision of vocational services, that is in sheltered workshops that are performed in the facility in producing goods or performing services. Let us talk about the place of service for pre-vocational services. This service must be provided in community integrated settings or designated locations that are compliant with the federal HCBS settings rule. The service may be furnished in a variety of locations within the community and not limited to fixed site facilities. Pre-vocational services may be rendered in the same building as an ADT, as long as clients are in separate groups. And clients receiving pre-vocational services must have, as I said earlier, must have an employment goal on their person-centered support plan. Now let us talk more specific about the non-job task specific training skills that will be included in pre-vocational services. Those non-job task specific training skills would be communicating with one's supervisor, co-worker, and customers, workplace conduct and dress, following directions, focusing on job tasks and task completion, problem-solving skills and strategies, workplace safety, and mobility training. The minimum provider qualifications for pre-vocational services are as follows. The program director must possess at a minimum an associate's degree and 2 years of experience working directly with individuals receiving services or related experience. The related experience can substitute on a year-for-year basis for the required college education. Supervisors of direct care staff must possess, at a minimum, a high school diploma or GED and 1 year of direct care related experience. Other individuals, such as direct service staff, must be 18 years or older at the time of hire.
So next, we would like to talk a little bit about what a possible service progression might look like. As mentioned earlier during our presentation, the agency's goal is to increase opportunities and create more pathways to employment for all APD clients who have expressed a desire to work, while bringing the iBudget waiver-funded adult day training and supported employment services into compliance with the federal home and community-based settings final rule. APD waiver clients can receive both adult day training and pre-vocational services, but the services cannot be rendered at the same time. Each service will address specific goals in accordance with their person-centered planning and support plan goals, as mentioned before during our presentation. Clients who attend pre-vocational services to work on their non-job task-specific skills, such as communication and workplace conduct, may wish to be referred to vocational rehabilitation for eligibility determination and to receive services that will result in competitive integrated employment that is individualized and customized, consistent with their unique strengths, abilities, interests, and informed choice. Once the client achieves job stabilization at VR, meaning that the client has achieved their highest expected level of independence on the job for a period of 90 days, the client may be ready to transition to supported employment phase 2 with APD. Existing iBudget waiver providers may wish to expand their service provision and start rendering prevocational services. The minimum qualifications for prevocational services are identical to the adult day training qualifications and can be found in the iBudget Waiver Handbook. Existing providers can request to expand their services by submitting the provider expansion request form and required supporting documentation identified on the form to the APD regional office. The provider expansion request form is currently undergoing revisions for adoption in rule. The revised provider enrollment application and provider expansion forms will be posted on the APD website, likely sometime in November. APD will issue a provider advisory notifying providers when the form has been finalized and where to find it on our website. Before the APD regional office approves a provider for expansion, the regional office will determine that the provider meets the specific service requirements identified in the iBudget Waiver Handbook. We provide additional detail about the service requirements on the next slide. When filling out the provider expansion request form, remember to check the box for prevocational services and also make sure you attach all supporting documentation. Supporting documentation may include the current Medicaid Waiver Services Agreement, the current provider service listing letter from the home region and each currently expanded region, if any, a copy of the declaration page from current professional general liability insurance where APD is listed as the certificate holder on the declaration page, most recent Quality Improvement Organization or QIO review with a score of 85% or above with no alerts, proof of employee qualifications as outlined in the iBudget Handbook, only for solo to agency expansions, a letter signed by the provider or agency owner attesting to the existence of policies and procedures as required in the iBudget Handbook. And of course, service authorizations will be issued contingent upon approval of service as medically necessary for each client. Next slide, please. The requirements for expansion are part of the iBudget Rule 65G-4.0215 of the Florida Administrative Code and the iBudget Handbook. Before the APD regional office approves a provider for expansion, the regional office will determine that the provider meets the specific service requirements identified in the handbook. And this includes, like I mentioned earlier, an 85% or higher on their last Quality Improvement Organization report. If a provider does not have a history of a QIO review, this will not prevent consideration for expansion. It also includes no identified alerts, background screening, medication administration, and validation, no outstanding billing discrepancies or plan of remediation, no adverse performance history in their home region, no open investigations or referrals to the Agency for Healthcare Administration and the Department of Children and Families. APD staff must check with the provider's home regional office to see if there is a history of complaints filed and logged on the remediation tracker. Any open investigations or referrals to ACA's Medicaid Program Integrity or the Attorney General's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit or the Department of Children and Families. The APD regional office has 30 calendar days to review and determine if a provider is in good standing to permit the expansion, and APD will issue a new provider service listing letter upon approval of the expansion. So you may be wondering when providers can receive service authorizations for the new prevocational service or other service changes. Well, for clients who need prevocational services, the waiver support coordinator can begin adding the service to the cost plan in January 2023 so that providers can have service authorizations on February 1, 2023. For clients accessing adult day training and supported employment services, changes can be made on the cost plan at any time. Waiver support coordinators are required to follow normal protocols for adding services to the cost plan within the client's approved budget amounts. APD will follow normal protocols for determining medical necessity for services. And for clients who need an increased budget, the waiver support coordinator will follow the normal process for significant additional needs requests. At present, APD staff monitor adult day training providers for compliance with the home and community-based rule requirements, which differs from what Clarent monitors. APD employees will also monitor prevocational providers for compliance with HCBS rule requirements. The prevocational program audits will be conducted initially, and then continued monitoring will align with their current processes. Additionally, each provider's Medicaid waiver services agreement includes provisions regarding monitoring by APD. Now, we will go ahead and share a copy of the actual monitoring tool used by APD employees. And we will let Ms. Kimberly Quinn, who is the Bureau Chief of Programs Development, Compliance, and Policy, tell you more about this process.
Hey, good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all this morning. This non-residential assessment tool that's being shared here, it's the same tool that's currently being utilized to assess our adult day training settings to determine if there are any areas of concern as they relate to the home and community-based settings rule. As most of you are probably aware, and as Liesl and Kent touched on a bit earlier in the presentation, the purpose of the home and community-based settings rule is to enhance the quality of home and community-based services, as well as to provide protections to the individuals that receive these services. That includes our iBudget clients. This assessment tool, along with the residential assessment tool, is included in the statewide transition plan that the Agency for Healthcare Administration had submitted to the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. With the changes to the adult day training service, this tool will be used to assess the new life skills development level 4 pre-vocational services providers. There are 3 broad categories in the assessment tool that assess specifically for presumptively institutional criteria. These criteria include that the setting is located in a building that is also a publicly or privately owned facility that provides inpatient institutional treatment. The setting is in a building on the grounds of or immediately adjacent to a public institution. A public institution, just for reference, is considered to be a nursing facility, an institution for mental diseases, an intermediate care facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities, or a hospital. And the third criteria is that the setting has the effect of isolating individuals from receiving Medicaid HCBS from the broader community. And under this particular category, there are the additional criteria that Liesl referenced, including community integration, respect, rights, and choice, and employment. With the unbundling of employment services from adult day training, the employment section of the non-residential assessment tool will only be completed for pre-vocational providers moving forward. It will be marked as not applicable for adult day training providers. The initial assessments for pre-vocational providers will be desk reviews completed by our APD CMS compliance specialists. If the CMS compliance specialists note any areas of concern during their assessments, standard processes will apply regarding plans of remediation, which in general will allow 90 days to remediate any deficiencies that were identified. And that's really the high-level overview of what this assessment tool is going to cover. And if you have any specific questions on this particular tool, feel free to enter them in the chat, and we will get to them as we're able to. So I want to thank you and kick it back to you, Liesl and Kent.
Thank you, Kim. Right now, and as time permits, we will entertain questions you might have from the chat box. And if we don't get to your question, the answer will be added to the FAQ that is posted on our website. So let's look and see what questions we have that we may be.
We have a few questions on the chat that we would like to go ahead and answer.
Okay.
One of the questions is, will the criteria for 1 to 3 ADT services be updated to support community participation? The staffing ratios for pre-vocational services are proposed to match the staffing ratios currently used with adult day training services. Next question is, will support plans be updated to reflect these changes? The answer is yes. Support plans should be updated if the client's needs and goals change. APD is providing training through the webinar for WSCs next week. And anyone wishing to receive pre-vocational services must have an employment goal in their support plan. Another question is, why wouldn't ADT clients be allowed to participate in volunteer opportunities? That's a very good question. Volunteering is allowable under the waiver after March 2023 during adult day training if it is not related to employment or pre-vocational services. Many of the federal changes encourage clients to be out in the community engaging in activities based on their person-centered plan during their rehabilitation services. All right, so let's see, there's another question. Will any curriculum be provided? Also, very good question. No, providers will need to ensure that that they're providing pre-vocational services in accordance with the client's individualized needs and support plan and in accordance with the service description. Pre-vocational services include offering learning and work experiences where the individual can develop general non-job task specific skills that lead to competitive employment, and this can include volunteer work. Next question, why is pre-vocational limited to 36 months? Well, pre-vocational services are limited to no more than 36 months based on the approved federal waiver. And this aligns with models from other states and facilities transitioning where clients from submission wage into competitive employment. Sub-minimum wage into competitive employment. If an individual does not succeed in securing and maintaining CIE, competitive integrated employment, after the 36 months with LSD4 or pre-vocational service, what service will be available to the individual? Well, there may be several options, and the client may desire to access other meaningful day activities such as adult day training or companion services. The waiver support coordinator can work with the client to request services based on their needs and goals within coverage and limitations of the waiver. Okay, there are a few other questions. Let's see, how many non-disabled people must be present to be considered a community integrated setting? In other words, if we had 10 disabled people in life skills development 4 and 2 non-disabled people, would that be considered community integrated? Well, we need to go back to the definition of competitive and integrated employment. And this is basically work that is performed on a full-time or part-time basis for which an individual is compensated at or above the minimum wage, similar to the customary rate paid by the employer to employees without disabilities, and at a location where employees interact with other individuals without disabilities. So as long as you're sticking to that definition of competitive and integrated employment, then it would be considered competitive integrated. Another question, competitive and integrated employment, it's work performed on a full-time or part-time basis for which an individual is compensated at or above the minimum wage, similar to the customary rate paid by the employer or employees without disability, and at a location where employees interact with other individuals without disabilities. So I'm trying to figure out, is this a question? Or they do not have to go through VR. They may transition into supported employment group model, but their provider will want to ensure that the service meets all requirements. Another question, can a client do life skills development 4, pre-vocational service, and life skill development 3, ADT, on different days? For example, life skills development 3, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and life skill development 4, Tuesday, Thursday. And yeah, absolutely. You know, as long as it's based on the client's needs, you know, that schedule would be just fine. Are clients no longer able to go out for on-the-job training during ADT, correct? Well, job training is no longer part of adult day training services. However, clients can receive job training through other services such as pre-vocational service. Here's some additional questions here. What if a client wants pre-vocational services, but upon completion of this service line, they are unable to move towards supported employment? Is this possible? Well, clients can receive pre-vocational services for up to 36 months. Once they complete pre-vocational training, other meaningful day options are available based on their needs. So these might include supported employment, companion, or adult day training. Another question is, do providers need to wait for the updated application to apply for expansion? And the answer is yes. We really hope to post it on our website in a couple of weeks, and we will make sure to notify all providers via provider advisory. So just be on the lookout for that. Another question is, how would level 4 differ from a vocational program that we already include during our ADT program? Life skills development level 4 is pre-vocational rather than vocational. So we have to make sure that we don't duplicate anything that's provided, that's vocational in nature, that would be provided by vocational rehabilitation services. Another question, can consumers go off-site and work on mobile work crews? Example, mobile car wash or lawn crew. Well, this is no longer going to be part of adult day training service. However, this can be part of the supported employment group model if the services are at or above minimum wage. Another question is, if our clients are not capable of working in the community, will they be able to remain in the ADT? The answer is absolutely yes. Another question, is this training the same as the one on Tuesday? No. While some of the information is the same, other material will be provided specific to waiver support coordinators. The one on Tuesday is going to be tailored for more specifically for waiver support coordinators. Another question is, are we to discontinue the working model we have in the ADT, and can we carry it over to the life skills development for services? Well, this is all depending on the model. This may be part of prevocational training or supported employment group model. So we would need more information to answer that fully. And these are all the questions that we have at the moment that we can answer. Is there anything else? Has anything else come in?
If we,
Okay, we do have some more questions.
more questions, okay.
Yes. Okay, here's another question. Many believe this rule, if implemented, will eliminate the 14C sub-minimum wage programs. Does APD believe they can only make a rule that eliminates ADT that have 14C programs to receive waiver funding? Well, this doesn't eliminate 14C arrangements. iBudget Florida clients accessing prevocational services will be eligible for compensation below the minimum wage. However, sub-minimum wage services are not available during day habilitation services such as ADT. And waiver funding is not available for the provision of vocational services, such as sheltered work performed in a facility, where individuals are supervised in producing goods or performing services under contract to third parties. Another question is, will rates for Life Skill Development 3 remain the same? The answer is yes. And will seasonal temporary work qualify for supported employment? Sure, as long as the individual is earning minimum wage or more as part of their community integrated employment. Another question is, did you say clients would not have to go through Voc Rehab to receive life skills development to supported employment? No, I didn't. We didn't say that. Did you say clients would not have to go through Voc Rehab to receive life skill development too? No, we didn't say that. So I do believe that that is that concludes our questions at this time. Any questions, any additional questions that may have come up? Oh, I think we do have some more. Hold on just a second. Hold on, we have someone monitoring these for us, monitoring the questions. Okay, so what if we are a new applicant? can we include that among our services we would like to render among the others in the iBudget? Yes, of course. You would follow the normal provider enrollment process for that. And another question is, will life skills development 4 allow paid work during the skill building steps? Yes. And is this recording going to be shared with attendees? Yes, this will be posted on our APD website, and it usually takes several days for the recording to be ready. So you may want to check sometime next week. Okay. Kent, I do think this is it.
Okay. We thank you for your questions. If we didn't get to your question, the answer will be added to our FAQ, which is posted on our website. You may access our FAQ on the slide that you're currently looking at, I believe. On the previous slide, on the previous slide here, the one you're looking at, you can access our FAQ at that address. And if you want to send in additional questions, you may send them to the ADT initiatives at apdcares.org address on the screen, on the slide. If you would like to contact me or Lisa Ramos directly, you can contact us by email or by direct phone. Again, this concludes our presentation. We thank you for your participation and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.